Hello YouTube friends, welcome to The Last Homely House. I'm Kate and today I want to tell you about the latest project that I'm going to get involved with. Now, if you've been here for a while, you may remember the series I did all about finishing my mum's quilts. After she died and I was clearing out her sewing room, I found 2 suitcases full of quilt tops that she hadn't finished. She made hundreds of quilts in her life, and just like every quilter, she always had 2 or 3 quilts on the go, and she always had some quilt tops that were waiting to be finished. So it was like the progress through her quilting journey. And so, of course, when she got ill and she could no longer finish these quilts, she put them in these suitcases and I brought them back home with me here and I finished them. I've made a series about that, and I'll leave the playlist on the end of this video and also in the description below, so that if you wanted to, you could go and see the journey of me finishing all of my mum's quilts. But when I emptied out mum's suitcases, these 2 red suitcases, you might remember, some of you, that there was 1 quilt left in here that I hadn't finished. It's in here and I'm going to show it you now. Now, all the other quilt tops that I did for mum's quilts were all machine pieced, and this one is partly machine pieced, but it's also got these appliqued hearts in each of the squares. It's like a log cabin block, but the centre block she's left very big, and she's appliqued a heart into there, and then she's cut the back of it out, probably to reduce the bulk on there. And so I'm going to pin this quilt top on the board behind me so that we can have a proper look at it. Now, it's quite a decent sized quilt, isn't it? I'll measure it in a minute. And it's got appliqued hearts going in both directions. And it's just a quilt top, and so it definitely needs to be finished. Now, I had an idea when I found this quilt again, after I'd finished all those other ones of my mum's, that I would finish this. And then last year, when I was at the Festival of Quilts, I was really enjoying looking around all the different categories that were on show there. Different categories for machine quilting and novice quilters. And there was a category that was a 2-person quilt. And I had an idea that I would finish this quilt and enter it for that category. My mum made the quilt top and I did the finish. I think that would be quite a nice idea. So I've got to think now about how to finish this quilt behind me. When I look at it, they're not colours I like at all. I mean, my mum was an expert quilter. She was technically really very good indeed. But we didn't always agree on colour choices. And so I really love bold, bright colours, really big patterns, and juxtaposing patterns that oughtn't to go together and making something really rather beautiful out of that. And Mum was much more traditional, and so her style here is to use paler, more pastel shades and bring those small prints together to make this finish that we've got here. It's gorgeous, it's not my style. And so in looking at it, I'm thinking, how am I going to quilt this so that it's still my mum's quilt top, but it's got my finish on it? And I think that's going to be the challenge, to make both of us present and visible in this quilt. So the first thing I'm going to do then is lay it out and pin it out into the 3 layers, so that it's, because I'm going to hand quilt it, I'm not going to machine quilt this one, or send it to Kath in Cumbria, Cumbria, the Cumbrian long arm quilter Kath is, but she actually just lives over the border in Scotland, and she does the most beautiful machine quilted designs on people's quilts. And I know she'd make a great job of this. but then it wouldn't be my quilt, would it? It would be Kath and my mum. So I'm going to hand quilt this one, and I'm already thinking about how I might do that to represent myself a little bit in there. So shall we have a closer look at it?
Hey, Sadie.
So I've just popped up to my storeroom to find some backing for this quilt, because that's what we're going to do now. We're going to lay it out, pin it all out, getting it ready for quilting. And I thought this was lovely. I thought it worked really, really well with the colours that my mum's got. I'm not sure, this might have belonged to my mum, in fact. So I've just stitched 2 lengths of it together, because it was just ordinary width of fabric. And I'm giving it a little press, and then I'm going to lay this out on my big table and pin it out. Now, when you're pinning out a quilt like this, you can do it on your own, but it's so much easier if you've got someone to help you. Unfortunately for me, I've got Anna to help me today, so I'm going to ask her if she'll come and help me pin this quilt out. Now, whenever I'm making a quilt back, I always like to make the binding at the same time so that it's made and ready to go. So I'll do that next as well, and I'll make quite a thin binding on this one, and I don't think there's enough fabric to make a border and a binding and a backing, so I'm just going to put a thin binding all the way around the outside of this. That's my plan. So I'll make the binding and I'll get Anna to help me pin it out. So I've got Anna to help me.
Hi.
Anna's my daughter-in-law, in case you hadn't met her before. Now, we're going to lay this quilt out so much easier with 2 people. I've got my wadding here. I'm using this stuff, which is cotton and bamboo 50-50 mix. It is nice, and many reasons I like it. It's lovely natural fibres, but it's also quite thin, which gives the quilt a really lovely drape.
Yeah.
And so I buy this stuff by the bolt, and because I use it all the time. I used it on Agnes's quilt. I used it on the seed packet quilt, which is just sitting over there waiting to be quilted. So I've got quite a bit of work to do. Sadie's sitting on the windowsill meowing. Hold that, I'm going to let the cat out.
Is that what she's after?
Yes, she wants to go out. There you go, out she goes.
She's looking so photogenic.
She is photogenic, yeah. Okay then, so this is... Oh, where... looking at the light. So this quilt is a square quilt. It's 8 hearts by 8 hearts, and so which makes it easy for laying out. I don't have to worry about which direction I've got it in. So we've put the quilt top. Now Anna, you're going to be laying out your quilt soon, aren't you?
Yeah.
Because we're getting on with that really well.
We are, we're doing very well.
And so this will be like a dry run for you when you lay your quilt out.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just going to angle the camera down so that you can watch what we're doing now. And here we go. Thank you. And then what you're going to do is line the quilt up about 2 inches above the end of the table. Inch and a bit, no, less than that, a bit towards you. Now what I want you to do then is just check by lifting up the bottom that the backing is bigger than, you see what I mean? Is the backing, is it? No, so it could come a little bit towards me then, because I've got more space at my end. So we give it another inch, 5 centimetres. Bit less, bit more towards you, that's perfect. And then what we're going to do is smoosh this all out now. And just square it up at your side there. I'm giving you a bit more at this end. You square that up. See what I mean about it not being exactly flat? Well, that's okay. And so we know that it's okay here and here, and it's fine at my end here. And so long as when you get it to that end there, there's a little bit of backing sticking out. And if you lift it up, there is, isn't there?
Yeah.
Brilliant. And now what we need to do is pin it.
Oh, I like this bit.
Yeah, me too. And so with this one, because of the grid of it, I reckon you only use the big ones. There are some little ones in here, but don't use those.
Okay.
I must separate them out one of these days. I know, I always keep meaning to. So
You around the edges first?
No, we start in the middle so that we can smoosh out towards the edges, rather than starting at the edge and smooshing and finding we've got a bump in the middle. And we only need them about a hand's width apart. So I put one there, say, and one in the middle of the heart. And that's it. You dig down to the table, back up again, and you're off. And then maybe one here, one in the middle of each heart as well.
Okay.
And that will mean that's more than enough space now.
How do you know that you've definitely got it in the bottom?
You can feel, can't you?
I can feel touching the table.
That's it then.
Is that definitely?
That's fine. This time I'm going to actually separate them out. I never do. I always say, oh, I'm going to separate these pins out, and I never do. So if you get any small ones, chuck them over here and I'll put them in a different pot.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess across the... And as I come to them when I'm quilting them, I'll just take them out.
So across the gaps here?
Across the gap, you know, approximately. And then every now and then just smoosh it out to check that it's okay. Yeah? It's fun, this, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good. Okie dokie. Tell me when you've done, you know, like double round the edges and all your hearts are pinned through. So is that the last one going in there now?
Yeah.
Well, that was much, much easier with two people. So now what we've got is a pinned out quilt top. And next stage now is deciding how I'm going to quilt it. Thanks, Anna.
No worries.
So that's all beautifully pinned out now, and I'm going to fold it up, put it away and add it to the pile of quilts to be quilted. But I'll make the binding first of all before I do that. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this video, and if you have, give us a thumbs up and maybe hit the subscribe button, then you won't miss when I post videos here to The Last Homely House. I always make extra content when I'm doing something like this, and I post that over on Patreon for my patrons to enjoy. So that information's on the end card and also in the description below. You might want to check that out. But there you are. I'm well started now on this quilt that I'm going to finish for my mum. Thanks for watching.